Did you know that there are more than 52 million recreational anglers in the United States, creating an annual economic impact of more than $148 billion? With numbers like these, it begs the question, is there a deeper meaning behind fishing? Fishing is a hobby. For some reason, you latch onto it and you use it as a distraction from the stresses of everyday life. To an outsider, it may seem strange, the passion you exhibit over trying to trick an animal with artificial bait and then brag about how big your catch was. But anglers know it's much more than about the catch. It's easy to tell some people the benefits of getting outside, away from the noise the world throws at us. But I think a big misconception about fishing is that it's primarily a solo sport. Sure, most anglers enjoy and see great benefit from being alone on the water, connecting with nature, but that's just one component of a larger, richer picture. One of the biggest discoveries I made in the hobby of fishing came from another hobby of mine. In 2016, I started a podcast with a buddy focused on bourbon. Back when we started, my interest in bourbon stemmed from a long history with whiskey starting in college. Now that I had some disposable income, exploring outside the bottom shelf seemed like a fun idea. We thought maybe we'd even get some free samples from distilleries out of it if we had a podcast. But what we learned from our journey was that bourbon was much more than a drink. It was a pathway to community and friendships that people our age were craving. I'll admit, I looked at fishing the way many outsiders do. It was something I did growing up with my granddad when I would visit him, and by myself on the golf course ponds as a kid in Florida. Like many childhood hobbies, though, it fell away as high school brought more exciting outlets my way. And it wasn't until adulthood that I returned to it, but as a solo venture, seeking solace from the stresses of work and family life. But quickly, I saw parallels in my fishing journey and the whiskey journey I had started years earlier. I'm not alone in this discovery. Andy Mill, Olympic skier, accomplished tarpon fisher, and host of the Millhouse podcast, had this to say on a recent episode.
I've been saying this recently because I've gotten to the age where I'm starting to get a better perspective on everything. It's not about the fish. It's about the journey and the friends along the way.
Yeah, in the big picture.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a metaphysical thing that we do, and a fish is a byproduct of your heart and the passion that takes you around the world chasing these things.
Yeah.
The more I paid attention to the people making podcasts or other fishing media, I saw the same trend line in the fishing world that I had discovered in the world of whiskey. This clip comes from Southern Culture on the Fly's Scoffcast, and it could have literally been ripped from the archives of my whiskey podcast. Give it a listen.
We're playing a new drinking game. It's called Drink Every Time Sam Says Community. Yes, it is about community. And yes, we heard all day long. I saw my fellow brothers and sisters of the Fly that I hadn't seen in 10, 11 years since like the last Harley Strictly tournament or the last time we did Bassapalooza or whatever, all these tournaments. And we kept hearing over and over again, like, we need more stuff. We need more events. It doesn't have to be who catches the biggest fish. We just, things that bring us together.
Seeing others make this discovery is one thing, but actually experiencing the magic of community with others through the enjoyment of a hobby is another. For me, I met a friend through the internet that was a listener to my whiskey podcast. His name is Ty. That friendship didn't just stop with bourbon. He invited me to tag along on an annual fishing pilgrimage to the Taylor Reservoir in Colorado. It was one of the most refreshing trips I'd ever been on, even though nearly every single person on that trip other than Ty was a complete stranger to me. My friend Ty made a short film about this annual trip on his YouTube channel, 8 Times Up Outdoors. He summed up the feeling of community through fishing much better than I ever could.
I think everyone needs a trip like this. A chance to reconnect with friends, get away from the noise of the world, find yourself, and if you're lucky, catch a few fish along the way. all of a sudden, everyone wanted to come on the trip. And honestly, that was the best thing that ever happened. Every year we have people from all different walks of life that come together for this special weekend. It's one of the things that makes this trip so unique. At least for a few days, everyone is able to set aside their differences and just enjoy themselves. Personally, I think if we went fishing more often with people who are different than ourselves, the world would be a much better place.
So what now? Making new friends sometimes seems like an impossible task once you hit a certain age. Maybe you're a beginner and breaking into an established group seems daunting. You're not alone. And that's what I want this channel to be all about. No judgment, just community and the love of fishing. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below about your own fishing journey. And I'll leave you with this. Freddie Johnson is a legend in the bourbon world and a great ambassador for the Buffalo Trace Distillery. A few years back, we talked with him on our podcast, the bourbon one I was telling you about the importance of building these relationships, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Never lose sight of the fact that there will always be old barrels and bottles of bourbon. He said, but we're not going to always be on this earth together. He said, so if you're blessed enough to have a good bottle, don't worry about how your friends drink it. He said, make a memory, because that's why you bought it out.
So no matter what your hobby is, never lose sight that we aren't meant to be alone. Use your passion to create community with those around you. And make sure to check out the full film from my buddy Ty about the incredible group of friends he's built around fishing. I'm going to post it right here, I think.